Hello and welcome to another session from the Wise Asylum. And today we've got an exceptionally interesting guest who we've discussed over the last month or so on various live streams. I'd like to welcome Claudio Silvaggi. Welcome, Claudio.
How you doing, brother?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
I'm good. Everything's over with you?
Everything is well as it should be, riding the waves like everybody else.
Excellent.
So yourself.
Sorry.
And yourself, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah, moving on as we do. Still coming to grips with the immensity of what we've all learned about our fellow man in these last 2.5 years. So yeah, but all in all, things are good. Now we've just been having a short discussion before we began to record, and we were speaking specifically about what's going on with this shift to monarchy, and I'd said that my worry was that at the moment we've got an acclaimed king, proclaimed king, but we've got a time between this now and his accession, which they're talking about doing next year. So we've got also a new prime minister, and she looks like she's going to be temperate. You've got Boris speaking in terms of possibly coming back. 42% of the Tory faithful want Boris back. So my guess may be that at some point down the line, people will be calling for Boris back if he's to return. So that's an interesting fact. But what I'm worried about is what they can do between now and his accession, while we've also got a clear puppet, WEF puppet, as a prime minister. So I just suggested I'd like people to start to keep their eyes on this. Don't take your eyes off the ball. Watch very carefully what's been going on and what's being said, because we may all have to start rebuffing certain things in writing. And then you rightly said that you would say that the king system is rather ridiculous anyway. And you had quite an explanation. So over to you, sir.
Yeah, all right. So being upon a phoenix rising, and we have to proclaim ourselves as kings and queens, because it's about us. It's about your journey on the wheel. So if somebody wants to proclaim themselves a king or queen, God bless, but that's not the right way to do it. That's idolatry. That's blasphemy to have idols in your life. It's pretty ironic that the queen mother, the energy in the sky that comes every 558 years, brings us a phoenix rising. The Revelation 12:1 is the queen of all queens. She's back astrologically, and then we lose the one earthen one. Well, there's no earthen queen. Every one of us carries a divine feminine in the yin in us, right? The yin and the yang. So that queen is back. She goes by Isis, Mektakawatl, Freya, Persephone, whatever you want to call her, the winged woman in the sky, which happens every 558 years. So it's pretty ironic that somebody wants to proclaim themselves a king or queen. God bless them. But why do we have to put them as idols when this is your time? This is your journey on the wheel right now. So you should be proclaiming yourself as pure, the pure one. That's what the queen is all about. One who is pure, not of this land. So the only way to get there is spiritually, to basically be loving, be good. So it's ironic that the media plays exactly what's happening in the sky, but upside down, right? So here we have the queen of all queens, who was back in June of 2019. She now goes retrograde for the last time before she's going to go retrograde again in the future. But last time where she goes into Pisces, and then she stays with our heads Aries, and there's the pole shift. So astrologically, written on the Egyptian walls, the whole event that's been happening is written in the skies. It's in Egyptian texts. It's in the Bible. And here we are. There's a group of people that are playing it like a fiddle, the exact same thing that's happening in the sky. So it doesn't matter who plays who. Just like Justin Trudeau, he is just the PR rep, nothing more, the public relations rep for the Corporation of Canada. The CEO is the queen, but she'd already bestowed the powers of the acting CEO to the Governor General, to which we know family of hers resigned about 2 years ago because the truth is out. That they're corporations and all they're doing is masquerading as they got the ball and you should follow our lead. So I'm not sure if you guys have a governor general, who the acting CEO is, who the real CEO is of those corporations. But as you can see in the Supreme Court Canada rulings, they've told the state party Canada several times that they're not a geographical unit, they're a juristic federal unit. It's written in black and white. And the Supreme Courts don't work for the corporations. They are international. They're supposed to uphold the international law, the international covenants. So the rest is all just show, fun and games that they play just to keep you enslaved.
See, the thing with the, as you rightly suggested, the international human rights laws, they're there, but the onus is on us to use them. If we don't bring, you see, a judge in essence is an arbitrator. It's what we set up here originally to prevent all the elder sons killing each other as big houses battled. So they created the tennis court. The courts are actually, it's exactly as a tennis court. If you've got your umpire in the middle, you will service data and then it comes back to you from the other side. So that's the symbolism of it. And it was basically just a way to do war without killing each other. And this is the basis of English law, which goes beyond and way beyond the 1066 invasion and pre-Alfred. King Alfred just pulled together what was already existing as Druidic law down here. So there's law in and of itself is just a method that humans do actually need in some respect to keep some kind of order. Otherwise, it's the jungle. But what I'm trying to say is these laws, the English Constitution, the Scottish Constitution, the United States Constitution, the Canadian Constitution, those original ones that were set in law, is the law. Everything that we're operating under today is corporate law, corporate registration, because we're under bankruptcy administration. So all the governments, because they're bankrupt, are being ordered or administered in the way in which the banks can collect the interest. Then you have your bailout in 2008, so that goes on us. That's more interest to these banks, which is why the taxes go blah, 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 blah. So that's basically where it stems from. It's being corrupted, of course. But my point is, the onus is on us. If we want the courts to be using international human rights statutes, then we have to bring it into the court. The judge can only arbitrate on what is brought in to that court.
And the judges of today weren't trained in the international covenants themselves, but they have to listen. Right. There's a few that are very full well, because there's one judge in Quebec, because it's written in the international laws, which trumps all constitutions. All constitutions are trumped. They're all signatory to, these corporations are signatory to the international covenants. It's signed, it's in UN documents. I've seen them. They have all their objections and all that shit, but it doesn't matter. They're signed. And our rights are there. I'm going to back up a bit. If you look at every constitution around the world, they're exactly the same. So they're run by the same banks, they're run by the same media, all the propaganda. So when they show a war between two countries, it's still them. It's them creating the illusion of what's actually happening. And we can talk to but there's really something happening. Yes. But that's to do with astrology. The politicians take credit for it and want to write the history on it. But anyway, every constitution is the same. They tell you about your rights in the first paragraph and call you a human. In the next paragraph, they make you a person. Every constitution, I've stopped at 10. I went all over the world. I stopped at 10 of them. Basically, they're incorporating you in the second one, which people wanted to be managed because they don't want to live next to a guy that's got 400 roosters because he doesn't want to wake up in the morning. So they were okay with somebody managing a society, a system. Except the tyrants came in and they abused the abuse of power, and they did it for profit. And like you said, it all rolls up to the banks. So in other words, for the banks to get to do it legally, they had to create these corporate statutes, codes, and regulations, right? And then everybody gets to use it. Everybody gets to steal from it. The banks are doing no different than Chrysler did. When I worked for Chrysler, when they shipped the 1,500 minivans a day, 1,500 minivans off the property line, they booked a profit. Whether it's sold or not, they book the profit as sold. Banks do the same thing. When you take out a $100,000 mortgage, they get to multiply it by 23 times in the enactments in Canada, which are everywhere, that you're worth 100,000 times 23, so 2.3 million. So it's not even, you just sign a contract. They booked the $2.3 million, just like Chrysler did when they shipped the vehicle out. So they artificially inflate the stock prices. At the end of the year, they sell their stock and they keep getting rich and rich and rich.
Now, you're speaking specifically of constitutional law as you understand it. That's most people's view. Now, what I'm speaking in terms of is the fact.
Right.
If you're looking for the ultimate law, you're going back to the Bible, because that is what it's all based on. Now, we're not debating as to whether the Bible's right, whether the Bible's wrong.
Right.
What I'm saying is, if you want to understand this system, it's all based on biblical law. Now, there's very little law in the Bible that comes from the Creator. The majority of it is Mosaic law.
That's right.
Man-made law. So what I'm saying is that the original Constitution of England was based on the attributes of law as given by the Creator, which were set upon you, your freedom to choose, you know. But the precept of that is do unto others as you would have done to yourself. So we're talking about law set up for the elites here back in the day, because of course, once they understood, which they brought up to understand it, biblical law, as long as you can show yourself man in the image of the Creator, then you would also understand how you present that. Now, this is what I've been learning in this last few years. Rather than messing about with their laws, present the ultimate law that they're operating on as well. So as I'm saying, again, it's the onus is on us, A, to educate ourselves, B, to move always to live according to that law, while also then learning how to communicate your standing. Now, of course, in this journey in the last few years, for me, in this side of things, the two go hand in hand. As you prove yourself worthy in your actions, you will then understand more about the real biblical law, as opposed to needing somebody else to tell you what it means, having to read books to tell you, or even having to hire a lawyer. You don't need that. As you prove yourself worthy in your actions, then the truth of that law starts to open itself up to you.
Exactly.
You're with me? So, yeah. So back to the onus is on all of us out there to bring this law in a way that can make sense and shows that you understand it. Then that will supersede all the other nonsense in that court, and that will be recognized by the judge, and that will be why it's so. Now, back to the kingdoms, as you were speaking, that the kingdoms were actually set up under the Church of Rome, which, contrary to people's beliefs, wasn't actually in Rome. It was the monasteries. The actual church originally was a monastic system, and the way they set it up was in tune with the biblical law as brought through the Gospels. So that's what they attempted to do. So land wasn't held in ownership. It was all any land that they had within the parish that had been donated to them, left to them, or whatever by king or aristocrat, or indeed the parishioners, then that was held in trust so that it could always be used by the people in the community. And that got overturned in 909 when the Carolingians took it over and inverted all that so that they could own land. And then they perverted the idea of donation, which is where they started to speak in terms of sin, and that you can, we can sort your sin out if you give us some cash and some gold and some etc., etc. So there's a clear demarcation in the church that was and what we have now. Otherwise, it wouldn't have spread so much across the West, it would be my opinion. And I think why that probably mattered is it's my understanding that when those times arise, like resets or whatever you want to call it, then whatever's decided between man of his day and heaven will be codified into a covenant, and that is what will be set going. So the role then of the priesthood would be to communicate that to everybody, so that they knew that basically, if you live within these parameters, because this is what we've agreed, because we believe it's the best way to form a nation and have some kind of civilization, then it's also been agreed in the heavens, and that as long as it's kept in order, the heavens will protect it. So you wouldn't need to be going to war, because it's being protected right up to the top. So my understanding is that the originate, like law and also religion, emanates from those covenants, because there has to always be some kind of structures down here, because people left to their own devices are insane. And that is a fact. Most people have absolutely no self-control whatsoever. And that's been so all the time. It's not something new, but it's promoted these days, of course, which, you know, we're well aware of. But so that's my take on why we have these kingdoms, etc. It's just the covenants that have been set up between your ancestral spirit of your race, and then it becomes a protective thing, materially or temporal, and in the spirit world. It's when you start to undermine that yourself as a nation, then the spirit world can't protect it, and it opens up the gates for, or what we would say, everything basically that we were trying to keep out by the systems we set up. So in and of themselves, I wouldn't say that they're all evil and they shouldn't be. I understand exactly what you're saying in relation to individuals. This is all about individual, your journey on your sojourn in this time for whatever it is you have to learn. I understand
Exactly.
that. But also,
Exactly.
not
I just didn't peel back the onion as quickly as you did.
well,
Right. I agree with you 100%. And I know our conversation would have head that way. There's a reason why Leonardo da Vinci said never go into a courtroom, because the court is you. The judge and jury is you. And if you're following law, nowhere will you ever need to enter into a courtroom, no matter what, because you are righteous, you're love, you're reflecting heaven on earth. And then you'll never see. The Piscean age is the most amount of karma being delivered. So the reason why we felt everything we've felt so far is because of what we've done in our past. So everybody around you that you see is part of your karmic journey. It's the waves you've left behind, good and not good. So you're absolutely right when you say the courtroom, there's no need to go there. Everybody needs to learn the law. Like you said, the original law was that of the 42 spiritual laws of Isis. If you follow those and you practice those, then you steer your own ship. And that's what is written on the Egyptian walls, with Horus being depicted in that boat, right? And then also shows that it's going across the firmament, right? He's steering himself with the stars, and the star meaning love. So 100%. The only reason why, if you ever find yourself in a court situation, number one, you should be in love. Number two, you should understand why you're there, because it's karmic. You're only there because of karma. You may be there to deliver karma, but we got to stop delivering karma. And that's what the age of Aquarius brings, because in order to have the waters calm, we got to stop flapping our arms in it, both spiritually and physically. So you're 100% right. I mean, the old law was that of common law. It was law of the land, but the law of the land, keep going back, peel away the onion, like you said. And in the Bible, it's about, it really is the 42 spiritual laws that are written in positive, suggestive words, whereas the 10 commandments of today, they're written in non-positive, suggestive words. So it all goes down to that 10 commandments itself is causing vibrations in the waters that don't match what love is.
Yeah.
So you're 100% right. That's the weighing of the heart ceremony. The weighing of the heart ceremony, you are every one of those people in that weighing of the heart ceremony. But right now, while we're learning, and we're the one being held by Anubis's hand, while Amit, the crocodile in many forms in his body, waits to eat your heart if it's heavier than the feather. So that actually happened in the sky. That actual scene is in alignment with the stars in the sky that happened on January 12th, 2020. So we're upon the weighing of the heart right now.
Yeah.
So if you want to find your world beautiful, the weighing of the heart, the answers to the exam is the 42 spiritual intents, if you want to call them, those statements that I am kind, I am loving, I am all those different things. And that's, like you said, that's the law. And if you practice that law, then you're going to find your whole world changing. Agreed.
And I think the actual term "do unto others as you have done to yourself" covers every single one of those laws.
It's karma. Yeah, it's
Just-
karma.
It's a natural progression. But that doesn't. Now, this is where people come unstuck, because they believe that it means that you can't look after yourself, that you can't exhibit normal human behavior. So they believe then it means that they're not allowed to get angry, they're not getting upset at things. That's not what that's saying. It's basically saying if your intent always is to treat your neighbor as you treat yourself,
yep,
there is no problem. And as you're saying there now, the time of judgment is being pushed aside, because if you're living the life in judgment, your life's pretty much wrapped up in judging everybody else at the expense of you looking at your own self and laying a bit of judgment out on your own behavior.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying there. Yeah.
Right. See, the beautiful part is the system, which is exactly like physics, okay? And the induction of iron to become magnetic. We have no choice now. Instant karma will come quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
So that you will be guiding yourself whether you like it or not. So if you're finding yourself constantly in situations, that means you have karmic debt to pay. That is the real meaning of taxes and taxation, is karma. So all these courtrooms and doing and all these laws and creating all this was just really to deliver our own karma. And we come to terms with that and become loving with that and accepting of that, forgiving of that, live in the now and just practice what you preach. And then your world changes. That's what we're upon.
Yeah.
And that's the weighing of the heart ceremony, because in Revelation, we start to be revealed to as this experience here going through the karmic 2000 years of the Piscean age, that was meant for you to experience, because of those are the waves you've left behind. Now you can come to terms, forgive yourself, forgive everybody, stop delivering karma unless it's good karma, because that comes to you tenfold, hundredfold, millionfold.
Oh, I've just forgot what I was going to say then. Oh dear, I can't remember what I was. Oh, so yeah, I hear what you're saying. So we could sort of upgrade. This meeting will end in 10 minutes. Upgrade now. What? So if it ends in 10 minutes, we'll crack off again, shall we?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. I don't use Zoom, to be honest, so I'm not an expert. Right. So what you've basically said there is, as the entire human race has devolved, so too the systems that are being set upon them are devolving, because it's a karmic debt that you're paying consistently. Would that be correct? And that it's speeding up now. It's instant karma. It's true. The system they've set up today will give the ability for instant karma on everybody. So I understand exactly what you're saying. And it really is up to everybody to start to focus on self. Not how much I can have and accrue, but what am I pushing out into the world? What is my action doing in all my relations? Starting to cleanse that, I think, is a good. And as you've pointed out, this particular Phoenix Rising sort of concludes on the 15th of April next year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's important about that date is when you look through the Bible, and then you see the Revelation. If you read Revelation, the woman and the dragon means the red fire, the spewing of the poisonous gases, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about volcanoes. Okay, because every Phoenix Rising, we have all the data, we have all the facts. Every Phoenix Rising, there is eruptions, there's earthquakes. There are weddings in 1465 that said they saw the sun turn blue. That's a good thing, but it's going to drive, it's going to make people like go in complete wonder. So, but the the amplitude of the eruptions and the earthquakes depends on our heart at the time.
Yeah.
So if we can all become loving before then, it'll be a little burp.
Well, I said
Because
it.
the earth is exactly the earth will
respond.
100% behave like us.
This is the thing people don't realize. They've all probably heard this phrase, everything's connected. Well, the weather is connected to an area. If an area is pumping out real negative vibes, the weather will show you, it'll manifest it and show you this is where you're all at. So I know exactly what you're saying there. And if you just go back to the weighing of the heart, as you said, and you keep going to Revelation, but the actual Gospels are also symbolizing that in the death and resurrection, the 3 days in the cave, while your heart's weighed.
I'm gonna put my ear pods in because the airplanes are going by and.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep. There you
So yeah, so the weighing of the heart ceremony again in some of the older ancient Egyptian stuff, it's you go to the dark place for 3 days, 3 nights, and then your heart's weighed, and you'll either resurrect into the heavens, either the door opens, or you're coming back. And that is the real, so I understand the real sort of symbolism of what they're talking about with the cave and resurrection. But yet the church itself has turned that into absolute garbage so that people are looking at some kind of fantasy. You know, it's nonsense. You only have to go back to where what the Gospels are based on. It's a readdressing of the sacred feminine. Because we all, you know, there's 3 Abrahamic religions, you could say. 2 are patriarchal to the hilt. You know, the Christianity came along just in order to reinsert the sacred feminine into man's psyche because it had been lost. But of course, that's been usurped, as we can see. But much of the symbolism in the Gospels, if you're not taking it literal and looking at it a bit more with your third eye, you can start to see that it's symbolic in many cases. It's also law. He's talking law, walking on the waters. Well, you know, anybody that thinks somebody can walk on water, we all know that doesn't happen. It's not physics. Unless you're using some kind of magnetism and you're actually applying some other kind of factor. But in general terms, we do not walk on water. But you can walk on the Sea of Commerce if you took to
and
Hawk.
the sun walks on the water when you look at it as it sets or rises.
You could say
and
that
that's why the Egyptians that's why the Egyptians had the beard that come off just like the sun walking on the water. You can see that. Right. So it's the Bible is a metaphysical astrology book of cyclical prophecy, because after Revelation comes Genesis, and that's where we're going to next.
Well, for me, you only need Genesis chapter 1. The rest of it, there's a second God coming and he calls himself Lord.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, really. That's where your law is. That's exactly where it's at.
Right. I got to jump in here for a second. Did you see the etymology? Like we posted what the etymology of the word Lord means.
I don't think I've seen that one. Cool.
It means divine feminine.
So
when you go back to Sanskrit, Prakrit, it's called Isha, and Isha means divine feminine, and the word for Hebrew of Isha means feminine, divine feminine, woman. So Lord, when you hear the word Lord, it's divine feminine.
Well, that's interesting. Because that's confused us forever. I mean,
because now we're now bowing down to a fake idol called a Lord, and all the men are calling themselves lords.
That's true. Yeah.
They're not lying. They got the divine feminine in them, but.
Well, you can understand that because obviously as the patriarchal system we're building, they had to, at all points, remove all the feminine of everything. Which is why they annihilated the Druids, and then it rebirthed itself the best way. Mind you, I think they should have kept the Druid system going, to be fair, but obviously Rome had decided, and so they had to annihilate the Druids. But the Druids were far bigger than anybody thinks. That was the high end of the Egyptian priesthood when Egypt understood the game properly before it, got took over by the Hyksos. But it's everything's been mistranslated, purposefully by the religions themselves, by academia, for a very long time, especially when the art world started to come to the fore, and then they did it through classical music, and it's all hidden in there. So whichever way you look at this, there's only one way you can sort of start to move out of this, and that is to educate yourself enough so that you can understand that your behavior is everything. Your thought patterns, the way you communicate with people, the way you your intent towards your neighbors, this is what matters, and this is where people need to be addressing in themselves and applying everything that they do to the outside world upon themselves for a while, and then start to recognize, because that's the most difficult part, is recognizing, allowing yourself to recognize your own nonsense. No wonder everybody projects out. It's far easier.
Yeah, I like to. I don't know the name of the movie. Somebody mentioned it. There's a movie out there where somebody has Alzheimer's, but they know that they come to once in a while, so they leave a message inside their own gas cap. So when he goes to pour gas, because the guy's always lost, but he's in his car, he pulls off his. When he goes to put gas, he's got a note there to himself to remind him who he is. Well, that's what the Egyptian walls are full of. We were all sleeping. We all had Alzheimer's. We all have dementia during the Piscean age. Now we get pulled out. It's a cycle. There's no resisting it. You have to. Even the men that actually who are playing the part of delivering our karma, the men and women, they now have to realize they got to stop, but they don't want to because they're enjoying what they're doing. Well, their karma's coming. Their karma's coming because nobody is exempt. No one is exempt, which is a perfect system because it can only be loving, or else with this cell would have been gone a long time ago, but it can't. It's impossible for it to go because we're tethered to divine spirit, divine mother, divine love. So our hands always being guided while we're delivering karma, good or not good, to somebody else during this time frame. Now there's only good karma going to be coming. So for those to wrap themselves around that is how much your life is going to be. See, the Egyptians were teaching transmigration. That's what Kellen Wheeler likes to call it. He doesn't like it calling it karma. I mean, sorry, incarnation. To me, it doesn't matter. It's a Babel word, right? So we are infinite. And the Egyptians teach very well. We're infinite on the wheel or infinite in spirit, and it's our choice. But we're